Hi everyone. Nice to see you. Today was solid, I would say. Let me talk about it really quick cuz I'm going to go to bed after this. Okay. So I woke up at around like 8:30 to move my car out of the way so my mom could go to work. Then I drove my car back up. After which I went back to sleep, and then after sleeping until like 9:30, I got up, used the restroom. When I got out, I greeted my sister, asked her how she was doing. She told me she was doing pretty good. And then after that, I remember I was looking for some cake and ice cream. My sister said that she and my mom were going on a health kick starting today, but I said that I was interested in finishing the cake and ice cream, seeing as it was there and I didn't want to just go bad after sitting there for a really long time. So, I got the cake, I got the ice cream. I found a Digital Foundry video of oh gosh, John Oliver and wait no, it was Oliver McKenzie and Alex Battaglia talking about the latest PlayStation 5 Pro patch for the video game Cyberpunk 2077. Basically going through the different features. Overall, it basically just looks like they did a better job with implementing more wider range of ray tracing features, but overall the ray tracing was still quite limited. For example, for wide diffused bodies of reflections, CD Projekt Red vouched instead to go with screen space reflections, which of course has some bad artifacts around the screen or when objects occlude the material. So it's not really that compelling of a solution. However, there are now ray traced reflections in car windows, but of course they're pin sharp instead of being diffused because apparently making your reflections diffused is very expensive on the GPU, so they have to go with really clear reflections on car bodies. So that's pretty interesting, I suppose. There's also ray traced shadows, and I think they also had ray traced ambient occlusion. Yeah, so when it comes to the modern consoles that have been with us since 2020, if you want ray tracing technologies, you really have to pick and choose your battles of what ray trace technologies to really implement. Like, ooh, should we do ray traced shadows? Should we do ray traced reflection? Should we do ray traced ambient occlusion or ray traced ambient lighting or things like that? And it's basically, one thing gives your scene a bit more realistic lighting, but overall you still need to make up for the lack of super realistic lighting by arting up the scene or using other techniques like screen space techniques in order to save on GPU and CPU rendering. Unless you, of course, have a beast of a PC like an RTX 4080 or higher, where you can push insane ray tracing technologies. But yeah, I'm sure when PlayStation 6 and that Xbox Helix comes out, they'll probably have path tracing capabilities. And path tracing is basically ray tracing technologies like all of the fixings. Like you have your reflections, you have your ambient occlusion, you have your lighting, shadows. Basically, path tracing is just all forms of lighting all in one go. So hopefully those devices will be capable of that, but at the same time, due to the way the current economic system is going, what with prices rising, we just had a price kick with PlayStation 5. It originally was 500 when it launched. It was then pushed up to 550, and now it is at $600, I think. Yeah, for a device that is 5 years vintage at this point, that is insane to me. And then the Pro console went from being 700 at launch to 900 currently. And the reason they give is, inflation and all this stuff. And, it's kind of a shame seeing how gaming used to be a hobby that progressively got more affordable and exciting for newcomers as time has gone on. And now, due to these insane price hikes, it seems like gaming is now only for like people who somehow have the disposable income and are still enthusiastic about gaming to continue. But at this rate, like, I feel like gaming really is starting to only become a rich man's game now. And that anyone who used to find it a fun little pastime or hobby, they won't even have time to play the game anymore because they have to do like 2 or 3 jobs to pay for like groceries and like their rent or their utilities. Because of the way prices are going for everything else, gaming would be the least of their worries. So overall, this is just a bummer situation all around. It is interesting to watch the technology evolve, but at the same time, the world, it's kind of fighting against this technology, at least its initial appeal. There was an excitement in the air about gaming way back in the day. You just could feel it like, oh my gosh, this is the new console and it can do all these cool things and there's all these fun and awesome titles that are available to play on it. And now it's like, it's available on everything, including PC, and also, which is a good thing. I agree. The more people can play the game, the better, in my opinion. But the thing is that it was kind of fun seeing that rivalry, and that's not really there anymore. And that was really the reason why people had a reason to buy a console. It was like, oh, you can only play it on this device, and now that exclusivity seems to be going away, there really is no reason to be getting a console unless, like, you're just a devout follower of the platform you've decided to own for some reason. And then like the other things were like, oh, system stability. You can 100% guarantee the device will run your game on this platform because like it was designed around the platform, right? And I guess that's still the case, but overall, now you've got like, now the device has to be always online. Now the game has to always be online, or to check with servers to make sure like there's like everything's good. And like, the whole appeal of the game was you got the game when it was done, and then you didn't have to worry about like it needing to be checked on. That was the product, and you just could play it from beginning to end and enjoy it. And I really miss those days when a game felt like it could be just a fully complete experience from start to finish. I feel like those are, we still get that with AA games and indie games. Like, if you play any indie games, like I was playing another Crab's Treasure a while back, and that game definitely has that classic PS2 quality and feel to it, where it's just, we made this game, you can play it from beginning to end without having to be online, and it just has this undeniable charm with its music and its irreverent humor and everything, and that's awesome. But that doesn't make consistent income for investors, or shareholders. They want a game that's just going to continuously blow up over time, like Fortnite or Roblox or things like that. And it's exhausting. It's like I understand why investors want those things to be huge. I understand why Sony wanted to have their own live service game that people liked with their Concord, which shut down in less than 2 weeks, by the way. But like at the end of the day, you just gotta realize that the pond's already taken up by these 2 fish, and any other fish will just get swallowed up by these 2 big fish. So just go to another pond and have equal competition there instead, guys. Please stop competing for something that's clearly the general audience has already decided made their decision. So, yeah, that was my little rant about the current state of the gaming industry right now. It's honestly pretty depressing. Moving along, after watching that video about Cyberpunk and of course about the PlayStation 5 price hike a little bit, I was getting a little antsy. I wanted to do some jumping jacks to get some energy expelled out of me. And then I was like, you know what? I haven't really done any full body stretches in a whole while. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go listen to a podcast using my headphones. And then I'm going to turn on this mini TV in our living room. That was my sister's, but she plugged it in there to use in the meantime. And then I actually found out that you could just download the Roku app and use your remote on your phone as a way to control the Roku television. Originally, I was thinking about buying one for $10, like on Amazon, but when my sister told me that, I did it, tested it. What do you know? It works. So thanks, my sister, for saving me $10. I was thinking about it, but no need to spend it if I already have the remote control on my phone. Awesome. Anytime I can save money, I will take the opportunity. But anywho, I did some full body 30 6-minute stretch with like this dude. I forget his name, but yeah, he really did give me a good workout. I felt amazing afterwards, by the way. And as I was listening to this and doing my stretches, I was doing my stretches, I was listening to a podcast from Area 52 where the main host, Chris Ramsey, was interviewing a guy who's the host of a YouTube channel called Third Eye Drops. Basically, the whole point of the YouTube channel is it doesn't explore UFOs and aliens in the literal, greys, aliens, otherworldly beings kind of lens, but more so in the metaphysical sort of, like quantum field sense, if that makes any sense. Like, basically, he explores the topic in a way where it's more on the, like, what is really going on? Interdimensional beings that know how to manipulate the environment and have a deep understanding of physics that humans couldn't possibly comprehend even with our best physics scientists. Basically, like, he explores that metaphysical aspect of the phenomenon, which is interesting. And yeah, that's basically what they were talking about as I was doing my stretches. It was pretty interesting to hear, for sure. Now, after doing my stretches, I only was 36 minutes in. I decided I would get some business done on my phone when it came to calling my bank about some things. So I did that, and I got some things squared away, and that felt pretty good. But there are a few things I still need to square away. So yeah, that's gonna be dealt with probably tomorrow or maybe the day after. We'll see. Anywho, after that, I remember I made like 2 hot dogs, got some chips, and I was watching a new video from a YouTube channel I've recently been following called Lately. That's spelled Lately. Lately, yeah. He is basically a paranormal investigator, but the way he pronounces or does his narrations and the way he does his editing, like he uses a little Pepe the Frogs, and he's kind of sounds like, this was really weird, and I'm not exactly sure what's going on, but I do know that I am very interested to find out what's next in this story. So stay tuned, and hopefully you will too find out what's next in this story. So he has that unique kind of voice like presentation that kind of strings you along and keeps you like engaged throughout. Like, because it has this cadence of starts high, goes low. We are going to do this right now, and then we are going to do that now. And he just kind of does that throughout the whole video, and it gives you this weird lulling sense of like, oh, I'm hypnotically involved in what's going on here, kind of thing. I guess like the way he like talks is strangely hypnotic, I suppose. But yeah, it was a really interesting video. It was basically about this family who was disturbed by these weird metal goblin alien beings that like with big bright eyes on like both sides of its like face, and like when they were shot like they didn't feel any pain, and then they kept off the ground and like floated off the ground, and like apparently it was really weird and surreal and scary. And like it was like some people who like a whole family, and the men were trying to shoot these things and stop them, and they kept on like evading their calls of violence. The alien, whatever they were trying to evade their calls of violence with the guns and everything. So it was a really interesting tale. When they showed up at the police offices and told what they saw, they looked genuinely frightened and scared, and like they weren't making this up. And because the beings like were able to float off the air and not disturb any of the environment, and also because of the rain, it washed away any evidence. There was evidence of gunshots around the area, but no evidence of these beings anywhere. Although later in the night, when everyone went to sleep, one of the women woke up, saw one of the beings that was like staring at her through like the window, and she went to let her family know, and then they tried to get him, and then the being disappeared, and then that was the last they ever saw of it. It was a really interesting story, and definitely one of the ones that has managed to persist over time and continue to ignite mystery and eyebrow raises of this whole phenomenon. Now, did they really see something extraterrestrial? Now, it all started where one of the dudes who was like outside before the whole event happened saw like what looked to be a disc-shaped object that was like metal that was slowly going down behind a hill in the field, and it looks like there was like this sort of a rainbow dust coming off of the device as it was going down. So yeah, that was a preemptiveness that happened before that. So it is interesting how all that correlated, and all of like their neighbors did say they saw some kind of craft a little earlier before the whole event occurred. So whatever happened, it's really interesting. Yeah, so after that, where I ate 2 hot dogs while watching it, A&W Zero Sugar, some chips, corn chips, by the way, corn tortilla chips. I eventually got used the restroom again, then went out and made a sourdough toast with butter and lemon curd jelly while finishing up the video. That was pretty good. And then I decided to work a little bit on my brain jam. I was just drawing some cans in this in the aisle of this scene that I've been chipping away at. And I was listening to a little like news report article thingy majig of a guy who was talking about like how there was some crazy conspiracy that was like recently like discussed. And he showed like the clip of like there was like a Congress dude who was being interviewed, and he said, what I saw in the skiff, what I was told in the skiff, having to do with the UFO and extraterrestrial phenomenon, was so disruptive and so horrific that it would genuinely bring this nation to its knees. It sickens me that this hasn't been shared with the truth hasn't been shared with the people, but you are threatened, you are told to be silenced, and there are serious consequences if you say anything. So yeah, this kind of stuff is taken seriously. So that was really interesting to hear a congressman who was told about all this stuff in a skiff after talking with various people having to do with this phenomenon. Really, really interesting. But then after that, there was like a clip in the same video shown of like a guy who said he was speaking with like a official military, you know, representative. You know, he had the suit on and everything, and he was told, and this is where things get insane, that apparently there's these extraterrestrial human breeding programs done completely under wraps, where there are apparently refugees or people, you know, prisoners of war who are taken in, and then their DNA is spliced with extraterrestrial DNA to create human alien hybrids, so that way the government can use these human alien hybrids to communicate with you know, other beings through enhanced telepathic abilities. I understand all this sounds absolutely insane and crazy, but I'm just reporting what I heard, like a guy who was apparently, you know, in the room with some important people said. So, you know, for all I know, this is just a wrong breadcrumb trail that's just been laid out to trick people into getting hyped about something that ultimately isn't true, so that way they can be distracted from like the real truth, which sounds like it makes more sense to me, but that's just my interpretation. Hearing about that though, man, that would be insane if that was true. Absolutely insane. After listening to that, I shared it with my sister. She was like, wow, that's crazy. We had a little conversation about it. Then I went to my room. I continued listening while doing my brain jam. Then I needed to get dressed and ready for work, so I wet my hair. I combed my hair. I got my clothes on. And then I said goodbye to my sister, told her I love her. And then I went off to work. Oh, yeah, and I almost forgot to say this. As I was hanging out in the kitchen during the time before work, my sister suggested I release the video that I filmed during our trip to Knott's Berry Farm, trying out the Berry Festival, to YouTube. But that video has me, two of my three sisters, and my mom in there. And so I'd rather get the A-OK from my other sister and my mom before releasing it, so that way, like, I don't release something without someone's like knowledge of it. And I did get the OK from my other sister, and I had to wait for my mom. But that's when now we can jump forward to going to work. So when I went to work, I arrived there from driving. I looked at my schedule. I made sure I had my lunch from 7 to 7:30. So I learned my lesson from yesterday. And then I just I put on my vest and started sweeping. Yeah, it was a pretty good shift, I guess. Yeah, I sweeped produce, the break room, I had to wipe the table in the break room, all the crumbs off, and so I could sweep those. I swept the main floor of the store, and then I was told by one of my coworkers about this fluid that was leaking in the wet cleanup in one of the island locations in the back of the store. I checked it, and I tried putting some paper towels there. I found out that the grate that was near the wet area was actually overflowing with water, so I let one of my coworkers know. They told me I'd have to get a manager to know. I told them, okay, but first I need to punch in my sweep. So I went out to punch my sweep. When I came back, they already let the manager know, or one of the managers, co-managers, They plunged it, and the water went away, and the problem was solved. So that's pretty nice. And then after that, I ended up continuing to do my sweeping duties. Punched times in. I actually was a little bit late on my other sweep, and the reason for that was because it was around the time when that water leakage with the great overflowing situation happens. I was kind of distracted from that to wipe it to go punching for that sweep. But I did at least punch for it, even if it was like about a minute late. So yeah, but stuff like that will happen. Eventually I did punch out for lunch at 7:03, and I went to home. I knew my sister made hard-boiled eggs, and she left some for me. So when I arrived home, I greeted my sister, and then I found a bolio that was there. I decided to cut it in half, fry it with butter, steam it on a pan with a little bit of water, and cover the pan with a pan covering, so that way the bolio could regain some moisture, and also have the pan fry butter at the bottom. I then put some mayonnaise on that, and then I got the 3 hard-boiled eggs. I cracked those open, put them in a bowl. I put some mayonnaise in there. I crushed it and mixed it together until it was a good egg paste. I put it in the microwave for 30 seconds. When that was done, I mixed it so it would be evenly heated through. I put that on the sandwich with the mayonnaise, and that was recently fried with butter. And then I had that with the A&W Zero Sugar. So that was very good. I really enjoyed that. Around that time, my mom arrived and I greeted her. I asked her about the video, and she was totally cool with it. So expect a Knott's Berry Farm Berry Fest video in the very near future. But anywho, I then need to leave back for work. And I almost forgot to mention this. The hour before I left for work, I did pre-plan by taking out all the trashes and having them ready to go. So that way when I returned from my lunch break, I'd just be able to take them out. So that was good that I did that, I think. Very nice. So when I arrived, I punched back in. I took out all the trash that I had already preloaded up. And I put some bags in there so I could take them to the front and refill them in. I helped bag every now and then. I then wiped down check stands. I got in some funny conversations with one of my coworkers about like Einstein E equals MC squared 2, because if Einstein had an entirely preventable disease that he could have been cured from instead of dying from, I joked that if he lived long enough, he would have been able to make the sequel to E equals MC squared. So yeah, it was a little dumb joke there. We were just talking about things like, finances and stuff like that. But anyways, after that, I wiped down all the check stands. One of my coworkers needed help cleaning up a wet area, so I wiped it up. There was a little interesting, conversation where one of my co-managers told one of my coworkers that I said that I told them that my inspirations are Pee Wee Herman and the Cowardly Lion from Wizard of Oz, and they wanted me to tell that to one of my coworkers, and they were like, "Yeah, I respect it." So yeah, it was pretty funny. Then after that, when we're done, I punched out, wiping the final check stand and throwing away the trash as it was going along. One of my coworkers needed a drive back to their home, which was relatively near so I drove them back, it was pretty cool. When they left, I drove home. When I arrived home, My sister was stretching in the den. I said hello. I was originally thinking about making spaghetti and meatballs, but I decided against it because I just, I don't know, I just wasn't really, I was getting really tired because I went in my room and I actually listened to some binaural beats. I was trying to meditate to it. I just got really tired and started to drowse off and lose, like, you know, my consciousness. I was about to go to sleep, basically. So I decided to instead listen to an Uncle Owl video where the guy was talking about what he wants from the new Smash game. It was basically just a ramble of a fan of the Smash series having scattershot ideas about what he wants for the new franchise. Or the new sequel to the franchise, I mean. I guess the most interesting thing he said was like he'd rather it be like a reboot or like a do-over, like because just redoing Smash again, Smash Ultimate again would be kind of disappointing. Yeah. And then I was listening to like a guy analyze Trump's behavior, which was shocking, and then finally I took my vitamin. Oh yeah, and as I was watching that, I was eating way too many M&Ms. Yeah, it was ridiculous. But then I brushed my teeth. I took my vitamins. I brushed my teeth. I used mouthwash. I was listening to a new Joe Rogan where he was talking with Bob Lazar, which was pretty interesting. And then I was like, okay, time to make my new video. So here it is. So that's pretty much a quick run through of my day. It was a pretty solid day, all things considered. I am going to go to bed now. Good night, everybody, and take care.